Let's talk about voiceover, which is sort of a hybrid between translation and interpreting, or maybe a field of its own. But honestly, a lot of us sometimes are called upon to do voiceover. And I have done definitely my fair share. So I know of two main routes and again, a hybrid in between. Let me describe. Of course, the standard quote unquote mainstream route to voiceover is let's say you have videos. For example, if somebody were mad enough to actually want to translate these videos of mine, or let's say that some guru on YouTube who has a nutrition channel or whatever channel, they want their videos voiced over, right? That's the situation. So step number one is you get a transcription of that video. And what is a transcription? It's just a written text of exactly what they're saying with all of their repetitions and so forth, so that the translator has it. And that requires a professional transcriptionist, or sometimes if you're good and don't mind the tedious work, then you do it. I prefer not to. Then you take that and you go through your due diligence of translation. We're not going to discuss how to translate here, but there is a really, really important but, because it is not just a translation of a written text, it is a translation of a speech, and people speak differently than they write. So you have to keep that in mind and keep it colloquial and not make it a beautiful Shakespearean, Pushkinian, Nerudian, pick your favorite poet, written text. Plus, there is a time constraint. I kind of learned it the hard way. We were translating 100 Ways to Stay Motivated by Grant Cardone, and the voiceover artist, which wasn't me in that particular situation, he was like, I can't get all of this in 1 minute or 2 minutes. Can you guys make it shorter? And the reason for that is a translation normally, naturally, you guys know this, tends to be longer, about 20% longer. That's kind of normal. But in a voiceover, you have to kind of make it more concise or squish it down without losing the meaning, and especially if the speaker is fast. If the speaker is not super fast, the voiceover artist can speed up a little bit. Okay, so you did your translation, then it got checked, reviewed, whatever, blah, 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 and then it goes to a professional voiceover artist, or maybe that's you, but if you're a professional translator, probably not, and voila, they do their thing. Now there's another way. It's not for the faint of heart. It's actually for a really good simultaneous interpreter. And I thought that I quote unquote invented this, but alas, to my chagrin, I did not. I found out other interpreters do this. And I was once actually interpreting seminars by a really cool guy who was a director, screenwriter, life coach from Hollywood, and he did all these seminars during the pandemic about just life to keep people motivated. And just for friends, I interpreted on my phone, and somebody recorded it, and then we were like, why not actually post it? But the post-production process becomes really involved. So let me describe the steps. The steps are, you interpret simultaneously the video, the seminar, whatever it is, ideally without stopping. And if you're a good simultaneous interpreter, it'll probably be like 90% precise or above. You can also, if you have the right program, like stop, go back, re-record. I have done it both ways. Both ways are good. And sometimes there's the time constraint where you can't stop because it's live. But anyway, so you record it simultaneously all the way through, but then because simultaneous interpreting is not as precise necessarily as translation, it has to get edited. When we were doing these seminars, I would give it to my colleague Rick. Rick would listen to all of it and he would say, hey Vladimir, this sounds kind of weird. Here you hemmed and hawed. Here you kind of altered a word. These things happen during simultaneous and nobody pays attention to them. You don't have to fix them for the record in simultaneous, but this is a persisting record, right? This is for the posterity. This stays there for the ages. So he would write down all these time codes and I would go through and re-record. And because I'm a perfectionist, I would often record the same spot like 10 times, whatever. He would put that all in, and then we would give it to several target audience test listeners and say, hey, listen to this. Is there anything that doesn't make sense? Is there anything that sounds weird? So probably usually 2 or 3 listeners, and we would put in all of these edits. And usually, for example, if it's a video half an hour long, the actual recording takes at least 4 times as much. So it is an involved process. I don't know which is faster, but I slightly kind of prefer the second because it makes it more expressive, more live, and more true to the original because as a simultaneous interpreter, you're being spontaneous just like the speaker. Whereas in translation, it might become a little bit more stilted because it is a written translation, right? I'll give you one example and then we'll wrap up the clip. I wanted to voice over an invitation by Grant Cardone to his 10X conference, and I did it both ways. I voiced it over simultaneously and then I translated it. And the translation was like polished, but it was less alive, you know? So we actually opted for the voiceover, the simultaneous voiceover. And there is also a hybrid. The hybrid is you could theoretically take a transcribed text and do a sight translation of that text. I think I've done it maybe once or twice. So these are the ways that I know of to do voiceover. You might know of another way, but if you're called upon to do that, and if you're a high caliber simultaneous interpreter, don't be afraid, give it a go, and may life never be the same again for you. I don't know why I said that, but translation is always an adventure, so voila.